Hey guys, and welcome back to Block by Block. We are on our very last machine until we get to computer stuff. That's exciting. So we'll start computer and frame stuff in the near future. I will probably do computers before frames. Probably. But we shall see what transgresses. So here we have the sorting machine, which again is a Redpower block that requires electricity, as you can see by my little power setup here. And when it's powered, these little blue veins become lighter, whereas over here they're nice and dark. So that's how you know it's on. Now this machine has a crud ton of options. It's ridiculous. I'm not even kidding. So we'll just start here with these rows. Each one of these rows is a sorting set, and you can assign a color to them. So for instance, anything in this row will be assigned the color white because I set it to white. Anything in this row will be assigned the color orange because I set it to orange, so on and so forth down the line. Now we have two different modes. This first button, not two different modes. I think together you have 21 different sorting options when you combine these three buttons. This button right here are just the general sorting modes. There's 7 of these, and they work inline and next to chest. And then here we have 3 poll modes, and these buttons only affect the sorter when it's right next to a chest like it is now. So we will start with the 7 modes here. Now this first one is any stack. So the slider moves from column to column and waits until it receives any single item in that column before moving to the next. Now that might sound completely like gibberish. Basically, the slider is this gray bar right here. So when you hear me refer to the slider, that's this gray bar. Just keep that in your minds. This is the slider. So basically what that's saying is every time this gets a redstone pulse, the slider is going to go from this row to this row to this row, so on, so on, and so on, but not until it receives an item for this row. So for instance, wooden planks are one of the items it's looking for. However, if I go ahead and activate this now, it's not going to actually do it. It's looking for this stone plank, or not stone, it's not stone plank, it's just looking for the piece of stone. However, if I put a piece of stone in here, pick that back up, click this, it's going to send the stone out to the white pipe, and then now it's on the plank. And so if I click this, it'll go ahead and send the plank out. And the sorter's smart enough to know that there's nothing in this row, this row, this row, this row, this row, or this row. So the slider, again, this little gray bar, will go ahead and just jump back to the stone. So the next one, this was any stack sequential. This is all stack sequential. So on any stack, the slider just wants to take one item out of here. However, on all stack sequential, now it's looking to satisfy all of the items in this column before it moves on. So let's say in that first column there's a piece of stone. I press the button, and it's not going to do anything because it only has a piece of stone. If I go back by right-clicking to any stack, it is going to activate, even though it didn't have chiseled sandstone. And now I'm going to have to put a piece of oak in here to go ahead and move the slider back. There we go. So when you move it on the second one, all stack sequential, it's going to do the same thing as the first one, any stack, except when the slider goes from row to row, it's going to wait to take all the items out. So it's going to wait until there's both stone and chiseled sandstone. And so you can see, I'll just go ahead and send those out. And so now I have some stone and chiseled sandstone over in here. So that is the second mode. So the next mode is called all stack. Actually, it's called random all stack. So what it does is basically, you'll notice the slider is now gone, so it just kind of looks for any one of these. It'll just check any one of these slots. It'll be like, is this stack satisfied? Is this stack satisfied? So like I can put a piece of stone in here, it'll be like, oh, that didn't satisfy any of the stacks. However, if I put a piece of oak in here, it'll be like, oh, you satisfy one of the stacks, you can go. And it's not sequential where I have to do it one after the other. I could put another piece, oops, that's not what I want to do. I can put another piece of oak in there and go ahead and activate it again, and it's going to be like, oh, yep, you satisfy one of the stacks. So this mode is random all stack, and all it does is search for any satisfied stack, and it will go ahead and send that into the pipeline color-coded correctly. The next mode we have is called any item. So this will just look for any item inside of the chest, starting with this corner and moving down to this corner. So let me just put some of each in here, and I'll press this, and you'll notice it ignores the chiseled sandstone because it goes, well, I don't have any chiseled sandstone in here, but it saw the stone because that was the first one right after the chiseled sandstone. Was like, oh, you're an option, I'll send you to the white. And then you click it again, and it saw the piece of wood that was sitting right here, and that will go ahead and send it to orange. So that is what any item does. So the next mode we have is my personal favorite. It is any item with default root. So the way this works is this second color pops up. We'll go ahead and set it to black. And so what this does is the same thing, and I'll even set it up the same. It'll take out any item starting from this corner going down to this corner. However, with the default root, if it doesn't have the item inside of it, we'll go ahead and send that item out still. So there we go. It gives priority to items that are colorized, but if the item isn't a viable option in here, after it's cleared out all of the items that are part of the sorting machine, it'll go ahead and send out items that aren't part of the sorting or aren't explicitly defined in the sorting machine to whatever color you set the default root to right under here. So in this case it was black, so that piece of chiseled sandstone, which didn't have a root given to it, just went straight to the black. The next mode is any item whole stack. So this is similar to the any item mode, except instead it can pull more than one item out at a time. So if I put 32 stone in here, it will pull out all 32 stone at once, up to a whole stack at a time. So pretty similar, and again, like the other any item, it will not pull out items that are not explicitly defined in the sorting machine, which is what any item with default root, or any item whole stack with default root is for. Some of these names are ridiculous. So this does the same thing as, let's go back here to any item default root, except now it will take up to a stack out at a time and send it on its default route. So like normal, it gives preference to items explicitly defined in the sorting machine, so wood, stone, and then after that it will go ahead and send out the sandstone to its proper slot. Okay, now to go over what this button is. We'll just go ahead and set this back to any item with default root for now for this demonstration. So this whole time we've had this little red one selected. Now this one is actually called single step. So what that does is it initiates a single slide movement. So if we go all the way back here to our good old any stack sequential, what that means is when we pressed this button, it went ahead and moved the slider one time. So that's what we've been using this whole time. And of course for things like this, there's no slider to move, but it will just do one item set at a time for things like any item whole stack with default root. So the next mode, which is my favorite, is automatic, which basically means that this machine is just going to automatically pulse itself. So I have this set to, just to make it easier to see, we'll set it any item default root, and I'll just put some of these in here, some of these in here, and some of these in here. And you can just see that the machine is automatically pulling them out and sending them the correct way with no redstone signal having been given to it. It'll just automatically check this inventory periodically and be like, oh, you have items, time to sort you all. And then finally we have our third mode, and let's fix this. Here we go. Okay, so the final mode is single sweep. So this one only makes sense if you're using something like any stack sequential. So let me just put 5 of these in here and 5 of these in here. Well, not 5 of those, 5 planks, because those are defined. So what this does is for every redstone pulse, it does one sweep, which means the slider goes from here all the way through and back. So you can see, whereas on the single step that we started on, when I press this, the slider would just move once. Now the slider goes through a whole rotation. So it goes here, and then back to the start. And the cool thing about this is it will remember how many redstone pulses you'd given it. So clearly it takes more than one pulse to do a sweep. So if I just do this, you'll see it remembers the number of pulses I put into it, and it will go ahead and do that many rotations accordingly. So 3 very powerful modes. Like I said, combining these 2 options, you have 21 different ways that you can use the sorter. It's a very powerful block, and you can do a lot of neat stuff when it comes to sorting systems. So I hope you found this video very useful, and I hope to see you all next time. Thanks for watching, and please consider commenting, and subscribing. Toodles!